Good morning, and welcome back to the Daily Trucking Market Update podcast. I'm your host, Driven, and on this show, I dive into the markets to keep you truck drivers, you owner-operators, up to date so you can best position your truck to make the most money. Now, I'll be using the DAT load board, and I appreciate them sponsoring this video. And in return, they've provided you with the link down in the description box for 10% off for your first 12 months, so check it out. Now, stick around. I got a dad joke to tell, and then we'll dive right in.
Rolling down the highway, sun just breaking through. Radio's playing loud, the show's for me and you. Learn how to book your loads and make that money flow. Keep the shiny side up wherever we go.
Now, all that I ask for the little chuckle, or maybe not, is to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing if you get some value from this, or maybe just a laugh.
Oh, it's so good this morning. You know, on the road, Pilot had my favorite coffee because they had that straight bean to cup, right? But before that, it was actually TA. And I carried that over to my coffee at home. I grind my own beans every single day. That way I have fresh bean to cup. And man, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Why did I set this over there? All right, let's get into the dad joke today. How do you fix a broken pumpkin? With a pumpkin patch. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, diving right into the weather. I use weatherstreet.com if you're curious. We had a storm yesterday that kind of swept across the nation. This was way over in Idaho. It's all the way over in the Great Lakes states today. And this morning it's dumping some rain. It's dumping a decent amount of rain. That dark green means heavy rain. Light green, just, rain. But that's really all we have on the radar today. Not much other than that. And it looks like it's going to kind of die out. It's going to spread out a little bit, but I mean, it looks like all light rain. So, but we do, if you can see it up there in the northwest, we got another storm moving right back in. This one's going to bring some snow tomorrow. So if you're up there in Washington, or you're going to be there tomorrow, be on the lookout for that. Let's see that is early AM. So overnight, if you're driving the overnight shift, be very careful over there. But yeah, if you're going to be up there in this weekend, looks like you're going to have to deal with some rain, possibly some snow once you get up into the mountains, and then looking up to the northeast, you're going to have some rain over there. And then there's going to be some snow all the way. Yeah, more late Saturday to early Sunday. You're going to have snow up there in the northeast too. So if you're driving in the northeast this weekend, keep an eye out on that weather. Y'all be safe. All right, moving right into the national load counts. This gives us a kind of a barometer for what the entire market is doing. We can look at it on a state level. This will give us the truck to load ratio, truck to load ratio. Is that how I say it? Anyway, brain fart. But this helps us to understand kind of what the market's doing overall, if the state's up, if the state's down. In a few minutes, I will dive into the actual market because because a state has a lot of freight doesn't mean that it's everywhere in that state. Good example is California. Typically, the freight is all located in the southern portion. Does that mean that you can't find freight in the northern portion? No, but your best bet of negotiating and getting the best rate, which is why I do this every single day, is going to be in the southern market. So, or the hotter market's not necessarily southern. I don't know. I haven't looked at it today. But regardless, that's why I do this, to help you with negotiating power, to know when you have it, when you don't, when you might have it, when to just book that load and get the heck out of there. So Alabama has 653 trucks headed in, but only 167 loads headed out. So it is load to truck ratio. I don't know why I slipped on that a minute ago. But that's way down for Alabama. Arkansas, 317 loads in to 277 loads out. So we're seeing a slide for Arkansas. Arizona, 465 loads in, 652 loads out. What is happening over there in Arizona? Is it what is it? I forget what you call it. There's a reefer season. I don't know. Fruit season, vegetable season, whatever the heck it is. Is that what's going on? All the reefers are pulling vegetables and fruits and stuff rather than pulling dry vans. So that's why the dry van market's up. I don't know. If you pull a reefer or if you know, leave a comment down below. I would like to know that. But anyway, that's way up for Arizona. Normally it's in favor of, or there's too many loads to trucks. Today we have almost 50% more trucks or loads than we do trucks. So that's fascinating. Anyway, California, 1,572 loads in, 4,240 loads out. That's the highest number that I've seen for California. That's huge. That production is off the charts. You've got some serious negotiating power over there. Choose your price, and that's what you should pay. But don't demand. Come armed with knowledge, and they will raise those rates. They have to. There's no other choice. Otherwise, their freight's going to sit there. Colorado, 505 loads in to 287 loads out. That's a slide for Colorado. Connecticut, 133 loads in, 113 loads out. DC has 5 loads. Delaware is 70 loads to 59 loads, 70 trucks to 59 loads. Florida, 1,644 trucks headed in. I don't know what's going on today. 408 loads out. Horrendous shape. But I will say that's way less trucks headed to Florida than normal. So I don't know, do with that information, whatever. Georgia, 2,079 loads in, 576 loads out. It's terrible. Iowa, 296 loads in, 546 loads out. So Iowa remains in excellent shape. It was in great shape, I think, all but one day. And even that one day was still above that 50-50 line. So you have negotiating power in Iowa. You've had it all week. Love to see it. Idaho, 99 loads in to 332 loads out. So Idaho has increased almost every day this week, starting off the Northwest, good shape. Illinois, 1,065 loads in to 1,762 loads out. So a slight bump in production. Loads in staying the same. Really good shape for Illinois. Love to see that because then it doesn't affect all the states around it, which are also in really good shape, or at least they have been all week, right? Let's see. Indiana, 702 loads in to 890 loads out. So actually quite the slide for Indiana, but still well above that 50-50 line. So you still have negotiating power there, but it's not nearly as good as what it has been all week. Kansas, 329 loads in to 288 loads out. A little bit of a slide for Kansas. Kentucky, 490 loads in to 505 loads out, just above that 50-50 line. So Kentucky kind of held on strong all week, despite being kind of right there on the edge of that bad areas. Louisiana, 323 loads in to 196 loads out. Massachusetts, 232 loads in to 219 loads out. Reading's hard, right? Maryland, 284 loads in to 256 loads out. So kind of just stayed below that 50-50 mark. Maine, 57 loads in to 95 loads out. Michigan, 491 loads in, 710 loads out. So really good shape for Michigan. It remained that way all week. It's going to depend on Ohio, which we'll look at in a minute. Minnesota, 268 loads in to 753 loads out. So an increase in production. You see that slide more in the truck driver's favor. So lots of negotiating power up there in Minnesota. Missouri, 693 loads in to 535 loads out. A bit of a slide for Missouri. Missouri has been holding on strong all week. Unfortunately, it kind of finally slid below. Mississippi, 280 loads in to 187 loads out. Montana, 59 loads in, 162 loads out. That's a lot of freight from Montana. North Carolina, 1,602 loads in to 393 loads out. Horrendous shape. North Dakota, 48 loads in to 156 loads out. That's the norm for North Dakota, which means that when you go to North Dakota, you have negotiating power. Nebraska, 183 loads in, 168 loads out. New Hampshire, 60 loads in to 30 loads out. Jersey, 417 loads in to 838 loads out. So what a massive slip in trucks headed in, but the production remains the same. So that means that negotiating power goes up. Now we will want to look at Pennsylvania and kind of see where that freight is located. If it's spread all across Pennsylvania, you're going to see more of Jersey's loads getting eaten up. If the Philadelphia market is hot and the western part is not, then you will have more negotiating power over there in Jersey. New Mexico, 171 loads in, 107 loads out. Nevada, 192 loads in, 473 loads out. So Nevada's remaining in great shape. Lots of negotiating power there. New York, 477 loads in, 863 loads out. So a bit of a slip in production, but a massive decrease in loads headed in. Do y'all northeastern boys just not work on the weekends or what? I mean, I'm not mad at you for it. Heck, I wouldn't either if I could afford it. Ohio, 1,123 loads in to 1,229 loads out. So Ohio above that 50-50 line, but a big slide in production today. We've been seeing 1,600 all week. Not the greatest of shapes. So those weekend loads coming out of Ohio, not looking great. They should still be posted for a decent rate, but you don't have a ton of negotiating power there, unfortunately. Oklahoma, 487 loads in to 215 loads out. Oregon, 181 loads in, 486 loads out. As per usual, that Northwest still remaining strong. I guess that's why I went up there so much, because the rates were good and I could always negotiate for more. A revelation. Did you see the light bulb? Pennsylvania, 1,218 loads in, 1,220 loads out. So almost dead even on that 50-50 mark. It's gonna depend on where that freight is located. I mean, most likely it's in the Philly market, but we need to see. Pennsylvania could affect other states around it. Rhode Island, 54 loads in to 30 loads out. South Carolina, 641 loads in, 277 loads out. South Carolina, the first about month and a half that I was doing this, would come on strong late in the week. They have not done that in 2, maybe even 3 weeks. So I'm not sure what that's all about. South Dakota, 54 loads in to 81 loads out. That's high for South Dakota. Interesting. Tennessee, 1,088 loads in, 402 loads out. That is way low for Tennessee. A massive slip in production. You're going to see a lot of those truck drivers bouncing. So all of those states around it that were even in decent shape or you might have had some negotiating power is going to get obliterated by Tennessee. That's like one of the last. This is the last line of defense over there for that Southeast, fortunately. Texas, 3,537 loads in, 2,389 loads out. That's a lot of freight for Texas. That's interesting. Utah, 316 loads in, 373 loads out. So Utah was able to hold on above that 50-50 line all week, actually. Interesting. Good job, Utah. Virginia, 703 loads in to 314 loads out. So a slide for Virginia as well. Yikes. Vermont, 34 loads in, 45 loads out. Washington, 280 loads in to 613 loads out. So they managed to increase their production today. Really good shape and not a ton of trucks headed in. So lots of negotiating power up there in Washington, lots of negotiating power up there in the Northwest. You guys are making the money this weekend. Wisconsin, 369 loads in, 1,089 loads out. So Wisconsin, probably state of the week, just remains strong all week. Excellent shape. Excellent shape today for negotiation. Excellent shape all week for negotiation. West Virginia, 104 loads in to 92 loads out. And Wyoming, 55 loads in to 87 loads out. Here's the trend lines. It's Friday. We're not going to go over them. You can pause the video if you just have to look at them. Here's the national spot rates, kind of across the board, just as a quick glance. Reefer went up a penny and flatbed went down a penny. Here's the weekly brief that is old, and the fuel price per gallon average has remained the same pretty much all week, I think. $3.55 per gallon across the nation. So this is where we find out where the freight is actually located. And the heat map, red is good, blue is bad, yellow is average or indifferent. And then you have colors in between those. So up there in the Northwest, freight's in Seattle and Portland markets. No surprise there. But all of the rest of Washington and Oregon and even Idaho is average. I mean, look at the color difference. I consider the West. I know this isn't like I don't know. This isn't exact per se, but I consider the West anything west of Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Albuquerque. Now, the only reason that I did that is because I just never picked up freight from those states ever. So that to me is what I call the West. So that way you know kind of what I'm talking about. But you basically can't go wrong in the West. If you find yourself somehow dropping off freight in the northern portion of Arizona, what are you doing? But that's about the only place that you can really go wrong. So it's looking really, really good. Yeah, if you're in Seattle market, check out Portland market. If you're in Portland market, check out Seattle market. Moving down to California, the northern portion is above average. Okay, but just because it's above average doesn't mean they have a ton of freight. The freight in California, number one, it's the second best market is going to be that San Francisco market. Okay, there you've got a big port there. And that's why you got a lot of industry, of course, but it's a big port. And then the second best market is going to be just basically the southern portion, like all around Los Angeles. You got a massive port there as well. Also, a ton of people. So you have a ton of businesses, but an even bigger port down there in LA. So those would be your two best markets. Your absolute best bet for good paying freight is going to be down there in LA. And the reason being that San Francisco market, it while it's good and it can be good, oftentimes the Sacramento market's not in great shape, or you've got the market in between LA and San Francisco is just okay. So it's really spread out. That's a large portion of land there. It's bigger than a lot of our states. So you get a lot of bounce from there. And if you're closer to San Francisco, you should probably bounce to San Francisco. Vice versa. If you're closer to Los Angeles, you bounce down that way. Me personally, I bounced where the money was. I wasn't afraid to deadhead. You need to understand what your numbers are for deadheading, because it's not the same if you're just looking at what your cost per mile is. It's considerably different. Your whatever it is that you figure for your maintenance cost per mile, right? You should have that in there. Most certainly, the newer the truck, it's probably closer to 8 cents per mile. The older the truck, you got an old truck, you should probably be at least 12 cents per mile, maybe even more. Depends on, what's going on. Depends on if you work on your truck yourself as well. Mine, I was very conservative. So I did mine at 12 cents per mile, even though I did, a lot of the work myself. And my truck was, it ran like a top. I didn't really have a ton of issues with it. 10 cents per mile is kind of the sweet spot. So yeah. Anyway, Phoenix market is where the freight's going to be in Arizona, if you didn't know. Nevada is showing that a lot of the freight is in the northern half, but you're still going to have a decent amount of freight over there in the Vegas market, and especially because it's a little bit, it's up in production. So you can't go too wrong in Nevada. Is there a ton of freight in Nevada? No, not really. But there's a good amount and it's above average. Looking over at Texas, I really don't know what to say about Texas. You've got two of the biggest markets across the United States and you just can't get paid out of them. It drives me nuts. We're gonna give the thumbs up to Dallas market today. And that's because it's hot. Houston is showing to be hot, but you got the Louisiana market is in bad shape, right? So when the Louisiana market is up, that gives you another option. If you're down there in Houston, you can bounce over. It's quite the ways to bounce all the way to New Orleans, but you don't have to go all the way to New Orleans. There's freight all along there. Dallas market usually pays a little bit better as well. So the thumbs up is going to the Dallas market today. The Southeast, Atlanta's got freight. Memphis is just average. So to me, that's below average because it's usually one of the hotter markets. So really, really rough shape. Just anything south of Mason-Dixon line, really. Anything south of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, you're just in really bad shape over there. Try not to go that way unless you're going home. The Midwest has cooled off considerably. Kansas City market is only average, which is the same that what it has been. St. Louis, I think, is upgraded to average today. It was below average, but the thing is, the rest of it just doesn't look very good at all. Unfortunately, you got Illinois is in really good shape, and considering that the rest of Illinois is in not good shape, and the only market that is above average is the Chicago market, that has to be where the freight is located. So you're going to find all the freight in Chicago today. Indiana, the southern half is above average. That's the Indianapolis market, not a surprise. Looking over at Ohio, so the entirety of Ohio is just a little bit is above average. Now we saw a pretty big slide for Ohio today. It is going to get eaten up by the people bouncing over from the western half of Pennsylvania, especially because of the lack of freight, right? It's right there at that 50-50 mark, but the Philly market is way above average. So because it's red, well, that means the other side of the state has to be below average in order to balance it out to get that 50-50 mark. Does that make sense? So what that means is that you have a lot of trucks rather than you have a worse load to truck ratio over there in the western half. Well, they're going to have to go somewhere. They're not going to go north. New York doesn't really have a lot of freight, especially over out there in the middle of nowhere. You can't go south. Where are they going to go? West Virginia? How much freight do they have? Maryland, we saw a slide. Virginia is not, it's not in a good spot. So the only place they can go is Ohio. So you see how Pennsylvania really affects Ohio. I'm doing more teaching today because I know a lot of you don't watch for the numbers today because it's Friday. That's okay. But they've got to go somewhere. So they're going to go over there and they're going to eat up Ohio. So because they're going to go over there and eat up Ohio, and Ohio is really not in the best shape either. You're not going to have that just kills your negotiating power for Ohio. Now, the opposite is true for the other side. Because you have, the Philly market's in really good shape. And the Jersey market is in good shape-ish, It's not like it's a way above in production. You just don't have nearly as many trucks headed in. And the same even for New York. All of that area, you've got good negotiating power in. As simple as that. All right, moving on. Michigan, the Great Lakes states. I like to cover these last because this is one of the spots you get paid the best. If you could wear out a lane, it would be for the Great Lakes states over to the Northwest. If you want to brave the snow, if you're an experienced driver, you're not afraid of throwing chains, you know when to shut down, all that good stuff, that would be the lane. Michigan, the western half of the state, has freight. That's normal, especially for the end of the week. In Minnesota, the market to be is Minneapolis. And if you remember, it's in really good shape. It's way above that 50-50 mark. And then Wisconsin, way above that 50-50 mark in Wisconsin, but only one market is hot, and that's that Green Bay market. The Green Bay and North market, northern-ish. You've got the market in between Green Bay and Chicago is showing average. So that's a good sign. You can kind of go anywhere along those lines. The majority of your deliveries are going to be right there in between Chicago and Green Bay. Not a lot of you are going to be going out in the middle of nowhere. It happens. They got to get freight too, right? But the majority of the deliveries are going to put you in the good spot up there in Wisconsin. So here's really good shape. Really good shape. Did you guys watch that video? Did y'all watch the video that I put out yesterday about trucking? What did I call it? Trucking business guide to knowing your numbers. And I put knowing your numbers in parentheses because a lot of people think that knowing your numbers is just knowing your cost per mile, and it goes so much farther beyond that. So much. It depends. What do you want to be? Do you just want to get by? Do you just want to live the road life? Be an introvert, keep to yourself, live the road life, and just get by. And hey, if that's you, there's nothing wrong with that. But you just got to be self-aware enough to know that is you. Majority of you, I don't think that's you. I do think that some of you are going to look at that and be like, there's no way that I'm doing that. There's no way. And just to call a spade, that's just laziness, because you should be doing that, because that is what's going to make you all the money. It may not seem like it, but those are the things that you got to be doing. Like, what happens if you have this aspiration of owning a trucking business that has 1,000 trucks in it or more? Like, why would you not start now? Why would you not start doing that stuff now? Because if you start doing that stuff now, then you're more skilled. Then you can hire other people later in the business. You get to keep more of your profit. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling. I'm probably speaking to the choir. I mean, we're 25 minutes in here. And if you're still sticking around, that's not you. So I'm probably speaking to the choir. I'm sorry. I get on my soapbox and I just talk. I don't like this. I don't like to hear myself talk. I think it's my autism probably. I have to explain everything so well. That's why I ramble in some of my videos. But anyway, if you haven't checked out that video, check it out. It's really good. I put a lot of time into that video, kind of hitting the different topics that I wanted to hit, to make sure that I hit the different topics that I wanted to hit. I filmed that, I don't even know, 6 or 7 times. Did a lot. It was worth it though. It was worth it. Yeah. Anyway, all right, that's all I got for today. Y'all are probably tired of hearing me talk. It's Friday. I'm ready to check out for the weekend. How about y'all? I hope you're doing a 34 this weekend and you enjoy the hell out of it. I hope you are in your favorite eating spot, your favorite hangout spot, whether that's like a casino or a lake or a mountain that you can go hike or whatever. I just hope you hit your favorite spot this weekend. Or hey, maybe even you're spending it with family. That would be fantastic too. If you're rolling, keep that shiny side up. But as always, stay driven. I'll see y'all Monday.